Now the top deck blank, which we prepared in an earlier step, gets laid over the board assembly and pressed down into place, very similar to how we press the frame onto the bottom deck. Now just like the rest of the board, it's really important that we do this step while the board is laying on top of the rocker table, so we don't introduce any twist and so we get the desired rocker, as this is what will lock it all together by creating the torsion box assembly that this surfboard basically is. Now this is by far the most difficult glue up of the build. It's not only the biggest glue up of the entire build, but it is also blind, and we have a compound curve that we have to contend with, which will put a lot of stress on the wood fibers. And it is because of this that it is so important that we do a rehearsal of this glue up without any glue applied, so that we can catch any unsuspected issues that might arise, as well as iron out the clamping strategy and seeing where we have to apply shims or weights while we have the time to do it. Because once glue is applied, the clock is ticking and it is going to be a quick but thought out process. To begin, lay your frame assembly over your rocker table and sight down its length to make sure it is properly aligned. Next, place your top deck skin over your frame assembly and then soak the top of the deck skin with a good spray of water. This is going to make the fibers swell and soften, and it will give us an easier time of getting this to conform to our deck profile. Give it about 20 minutes to an hour for the water to fully penetrate and soften the fibers before we start applying any of our straps. Once the deck skin has had plenty of time to absorb that water and swell, we can start applying straps or coils to every rib location and then gently apply some clamping pressure. We're not wanting to apply the full clamping force at any given position here, but rather go a little bit at a time on every position until we eventually end up with a nicely clamped board. Now, a quick side note, if you're using straps for this operation and not coils, and your bench is narrow, you might run into the issue where the straps are leaving the board at too steep of an angle to be effective, and this can actually cause more issues. Too steep, and it's going to want to put a lot of load on the outer extents of your deck skin, which is going to increase the risk of snapping, but it's also going to have the effect of wanting to squeeze the deck skin together and lift it up off the middle. If this is an issue that you might have, it's a good idea to either trim your deck skin to be super close to your rail profile, which is going to actually make it a little bit more difficult because alignment is going to be spot on, or use coils underneath every strip, which extends past the extents of the board, and this is going to ensure that it can't buckle down onto your deck skin and pinch things together. Once you have your straps or coils tensioned, you'll now have to come back and add shims underneath those strips to press down on any areas of the deck that isn't making contact to the frame inside. To do this, you simply press all over the deck skin and look for deflection. Anywhere that deflects, you know you need to be pressed down more. So here I just take some little scrap bits of wood and jam it under the straps until it is making good contact. This is going to create pressure in the spots that it is needed on the deck skin and make the straps or coils more effective at pressing the deck skin onto its profile. Once you have your top deck making good contact to all the areas of your frame assembly, you should commit this clamping strategy to your memory and begin removing the clamps, being careful not to release anything too quickly, and then we can move on to applying the glue. So you're going to want to apply polyurethane glue to all of the areas which are going to make contact to your top deck skin. So that's going to be your ribs, spine, rails, and also the frame support and any of the blocking material we put in there for hardware. For the rails, it's important to get a good thick layer, because here we're going to need to have excellent glue adhesion to the rails, so when we shape it, we don't get any stringy bits. Once you've got a generous layer of glue applied to all surfaces, lay the deck skin back over the frame and repeat the clamping strategy that you've just rehearsed, being sure to work quickly but carefully so that the time doesn't run out and your glue starts to set. Now, if you have someone that can help you with this glue up, now's a good time to ask, because you're going to start having time working against you, because the minute the glue hits the wood, the clock starts ticking. Now, allow this assembly to fully dry before coming back with a trim router and remove any overhanging material from your top deck to your frame rail.